I wanted to start the conversation with just an overview of how we got here, why we're here, what we're talking about. Just to give you a little background, a couple years ago, the IT support teams across the university, us included, started really saying how frustrated we were for our users. We were hearing your frustration in that when you would say, where should I store my file X? The answer was complex and hard to figure out. Should it go in Google Drive? Should it go in Outbox? Should it go on the N drive? Should it go in the shared drive? And everybody was like, we don't understand where we should put things, right? And we were the same way. We're like, we don't understand how to tell people where to put things. And there's so many complications. So we want to make it simpler. We want the storage and file sharing to be simpler, to be more straightforward. We want the answers to be clearer. And ultimately, we want everybody to use a single location because it's really hard when things are over there and over there and over there and remembering where you put things. And so a committee was formed from representatives from across the university. And we all gathered together and we said, what should we pick as the solution? And one of the key things that we wanted was a highly secure storage option so that we didn't have to think about, oh, this kind of data belongs in the N drive and that kind of data belongs in Outbox and that kind of data belongs over there. We wanted a place that could take basically any kind of data. And what do I mean by kinds of data? Well, there's basically three large categorizations for Temple data. There's public data, which can be shared pretty much anywhere, stored pretty much anywhere. There's sensitive data, things like student grades, lists of students, addresses, phone numbers, that's considered sensitive data. And then there's the third highest level of data, which is confidential data, and that includes things like credit card numbers and financial information and payroll information. And then inside of confidential data are two very special use cases, very special kinds of data that we manage. And that includes Social Security numbers, SSNs, and health data, HIPAA data, anything related to your health records. And those two things, not only are they things that we want to protect more as an institution, but the federal government regulates those differently. And so if there's something, if we mishandle data that's SSNs or HIPAA data, we can get, there's much bigger consequences for that. There's much bigger follow-up that we have to do, and we have to really track where that data is and who gets access and when they accessed it and why they accessed it. That's very special, okay? The first thing that we did was we looked at all the different options, and Temple Security determined that Microsoft was the place where we were going to be able to put all kinds of Temple data. And as of right now, as of today, you can put any kind of Temple data in the Microsoft platform, and I'm going to show you the different places where you can store things, except for those last two special ones. You cannot put SSNs in there, and you cannot put HIPAA data into Microsoft. But there's a big yet after that. So the goal is in 2021 and 2022, Temple is planning to complete negotiations with Microsoft so that we could store that data in Microsoft as well. At some point, once we get that negotiation done and we figure out what special kinds of things we have to do in order to keep track of that data, then Greg and I and the IT support team will work to move N drive data into Microsoft as well. So far, we've moved your P drive data into OneDrive. There is a plan in place to move Outbox data into OneDrive. And Greg and I are working on moving the shared drive into OneDrive and Teams. And again, I'm going to show you what we're doing there. And then the last step will be to move the N drive. But N drive, we're not going to move until those special use cases have been resolved because we don't know who has what kind of data in what folders on the N drive. It may be that in your N drive, there's no SSN and there's no HIPAA data. That's not the reason you have it in the N drive. And that's fair, but we don't know that just by looking at it. So we're not moving the OneDrive data until we have that one piece of approval. But right now, you can store any other kind of Temple data except the SSNs and the HIPAA data in any of Microsoft's platforms. And all that gets stored in Microsoft Azure Cloud, and that is encrypted at rest and encrypted when it's transferred. Okay. The overall plan is to get us all into Microsoft and using only Microsoft. Now, does that mean you are going to lose Google Drive? No. As of right now, no plans to do anything to Google Drive, except I just want to remind you that Google Drive was never approved for sensitive or confidential data. And if you are confused about what kind of data you manage, at the end of this, I will be sending out a reminder. There's a data classification grid. And if you just search Temple data classification grid in Google, you'll find it. It'll show you what kinds of data is what kind of levels of security. And if you are using Google Drive, you cannot use Google Drive for sensitive or confidential data. It was never approved for that. It's only for public data. So if at this moment you are storing sensitive or confidential data in Google Drive, I don't want you to tell me. I'm not listening. But what I do want you to do is move it. So I want you to get it out of Google Drive and put it into OneDrive as soon as you possibly can, okay? But other than that, you still can't store any sensitive or confidential data in Google Drive. Nothing's changing about that, except on Monday of this week, Google has great timing. On Monday of this week, they announced changes to their G Suite plan for that's the plan that Temple has with them and lots of schools and colleges have with them. They're changing the plan and they're changing the cost of the plan from free to not free. So with that, they're going to put some restrictions on how much data you can put into your account. We don't know what those restrictions are going to mean for Temple just yet. We're going to have to figure that out. So there might be down the line limitations on how much you can store in Google Drive, but right now there's no plan to get rid of it. And mostly because right now it's free. So why would we get rid of free? But there is a plan to get rid of Owlbox because it's not free. And there's so much overlap between what Owlbox offers you and what Microsoft OneDrive and Teams offers you that we don't see the value in keeping both. And like I said, we want to standardize on a single location as much as possible. Okay, so any questions about that so far? Does all that make sense? That's what we're going for. I understand the main plan, right? All right. So we have today access to Microsoft Office to store and collaborate. And how do you use Microsoft Office? Well, there's several ways to open up Microsoft Office products, but I'm going to tell you one way that works consistently across all platforms and devices. And that is you can access all of your Microsoft tools from any device that has a web browser with any web browser. You can use Edge, you can use Chrome, you can use Safari, you can use, I use Opera, you can use the Brave browser, whatever browser you like, you can use it, and you can go to either just office.com or you can go to portal.office.com. Eventually, those things will lead you to the same place. Portal.office.com, if you haven't already logged in, will take you directly to the login screen. Office.com, you'll then have to click the login button, and then it'll take you to the login screen. It doesn't matter, either one. But it will drop you here and you log in with your Temple username and password. And your home screen will look different than my home screen because this is showing your activity in Office. And then along the side, you'll see all of the Office applications that you have access to use. Now, if you're using a web browser, the applications look pretty much the same across devices. So if you open up a web browser on your iPad or a web browser on your phone or a web browser on your computer, Mac or PC, and you go to office.com and you open up Word and you start working in a new document in Microsoft Word, the options you'll see along the top, what you can do in this environment is pretty much the same device, okay? But that doesn't mean that it's a full full suite of options. For instance, if I go and create a new file in Word on my desktop. So if I go down here to my desktop where it's installed and I have Office 365 installed, this is my home computer, and I open that up, the options up here are a little different than the options that are offered me online. Now, in most cases, I don't use all those options except in very rare times, so it's fine. I just use the online version and I'm good to go. But in certain tools that you're going to use, you're going to want to have the full application version. And to get that, you go to office.com, you go to home, and then you go over here to the right side and you say install Office. And you click and follow these installation instructions, and it will give you the right version of Office depending on which device you're accessing from. So if you're accessing from an iPad, it will give you iPad version, from your Android device, an Android version, so on and so forth, right? So you can install. And for file management, I would just tell you that we're going to be focusing on Outlook, on OneDrive, and on Teams. Outlook, OneDrive, and Teams for file management. The only one that is significantly different on your local device is Teams. Teams is much more powerful as an app than it is on the web client. There's lots more options for what you can do with Teams. So I would suggest that you install Teams on your various devices. And I currently have Teams on my phone. I have it on my iPad. I have it on all the computers I work on. It's just one of those things that I install frequently in any new computer I'm working on. Okay. So I went to office.com, I logged in, I'm at my homepage. I'm going to go and talk about how you can share and collaborate with files. And I'm going to start in Outlook. Now, I know this seems really basic, but bear with me. So in the old way of doing things, we would start an email. And if I wanted to share a file with Greg Sapanic, I would type an email to Greg and I'd say, here's the file. And I would go up to attach, and I would choose to attach a copy of the file. And what that would do is I would browse to that file on my computer. I would attach it to this email. And when I did that, it would take a copy of the file from my computer. It would make that copy into the email, and it would send it to Greg. When Greg got it, he downloads that copy, and now that copy is his. Anything he does to it, I don't care. He can edit it, he can delete it, he can change it, he can do whatever. It doesn't affect anything about the copy that's still on my computer. But here's the thing, if I then update that copy, after I send it, I realize, oh my goodness, there's like 4 typos in that. I didn't mean to send that. Oh, what an idiot I am. And I resend it to Greg. I have to attach a new version. I say, oh, here's version 2. And then, oh no, I forgot to add another paragraph. Here's version 3. Uh-oh, right? And so now Greg's starting to get confused. Which version is he working in? Is it 2 or 3 or 5 or whatever? So with Outlook, you can make a different choice now. So with Outlook and OneDrive, when you go up to attach, you have some options. And one of your options is to browse cloud locations so that you can choose to, and I already have a document open. It's pretty smart. It knows what documents you recently worked on, right? And so I can choose to browse a cloud location, and I'm going to pick this document. And I'm going to say next. And now I have a choice. I can do the traditional way of attach a copy. Here's your copy, Greg. Go with peace. But I could also choose to share this document as a link. And what that does is it doesn't actually give a copy to Greg. What it does is it allows him permission to see my copy that's sitting in my OneDrive. So I've just given Greg permission to come into my OneDrive for that file only and access and open that file. If I change the file after I email this to Greg, he'll see the latest version. He'll see the most current version, right? And by default, what it does is it sets it so that recipient can view. So all Greg can do is open it up and look at that file. He can't edit it. But if I want Greg to be able to collaborate with me on that file, I can go over here to the little arrow and choose manage access. And now I have a couple more options. One of the things I could do is let him edit it. And if I say recipients can edit, then anybody I put in the to box becomes an editor on this file. And he still gets a link. He can still link back into my OneDrive, but he can change that file and make changes and add and do track changes and all that fun stuff, right? He can collaborate. I also have the choice to let anyone in my organization edit. So that would be if I'm sending it to Greg, but maybe Greg wants to invite Liz to the conversation because he says, oh, Liz would be good to edit this as well. By doing this, anybody he invites or sends the link to could also come to this file and edit it. That has some good and bad to it, right? It could mean that lots of people who I don't intend to have access. But one thing that is nice is the anyone in my organization can view option means that anybody who logs in with the temple.edu account to office.com can now view this document. Well, what are some examples of why we might use that? How about a syllabus? I want to put up a syllabus. I want to send it to all my students. I don't know if a new student's going to enroll yet or not, but as long as you're a temple.edu user, I'm going to say you can get that link and you can look at it. And if I update that syllabus, great, you get the latest version. You can't edit it, but you can view the most current version at any time, right? I might have a welcome document that I want to be able to send to any new employee. And I don't want to have to keep updating which employees I give access to. I just give it to everybody who has a temple.edu. I attach it in the email and we're good to go, right? So there's good reason to use either one, but keep in mind that when you do that, you're not actually sending them the document, you're sending them a copy of, you're sending them a link to your copy of the document. Okay, well, obviously there might be some downsides to that, meaning they might change things, especially if I let Greg be the editor on this. Let's say that Greg then changes the whole document in a way I don't like. Oh, well, that's kind of a bummer, right? Okay, so I'm going to close out of here. That's how you can add a document. Oh, let me do one more thing that's cool. So I'm going to pull this up one more time. Because one more additional thing that I want to do when I'm sending stuff to Greg is I'm going to attach it. Again, it doesn't attach, it actually sends a link unless I tell it to attach it. So I'd have to say attach as a copy instead, attach as a copy instead. Additionally, if I don't have this document already in my OneDrive, because I was creating it and I worked on it over here and I was doing something and then I realized I should put this in OneDrive, I can choose upload and share. And then I can find the document that I was working on, open that up, and by default, it's going to save it into my attachments file in Temple OneDrive. And then I say upload, and then it will add it to my attachments folder and it will give him view permission. Okay, so two nice things. And one more thing I can do in these three dots, and this is true, look for the three dots throughout Microsoft environment, is I could choose to encrypt this document. So if I choose encrypt, choosing encrypt, as long as this works, is the same as sending it via TU Safe Send. So anything that you would have sent via TU Safe Send, you can now choose encrypt in your email. And as long as you get confirmation that the message is encrypted, and see that I have the confirmation at the top, you can send this if you would have sent it via TU Safe Send. So if you don't get the confirmation, sometimes you get an error message, and it kind of depends on what file type you're trying to attach. I don't have a master list yet of what file type works and what doesn't. Most of the Microsoft stuff works. So Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all your standard Microsoft files work fine, but sometimes a PDF won't do it. It depends on what the permissions are on the PDF and stuff like that. Sometimes special image files don't work, but as long as it says it's good to go, you can choose encrypt and you can send this things that you would have sent via TU Safe Send. And if you wanted to, you can go back to encrypt and choose do not forward as well. Not only does this encrypt, but it also prevents Greg from being able to print or copy the content out of this email. Now, does that mean that he can't take a screenshot or he can't retype the content? No, it does not. I mean, there's ways around it, but it's just a way to discourage him from then just hitting forward and forwarding off to the whole rest of the world, right? So it's an extra step if you want to make sure to tell Greg, hey, this is for you only. I really don't want you to send this around. So I'm going to encrypt and I'm going to say do not forward, but you can do one or the other or both. Okay. One or both. You can't do, you can't just do not forward. If you do not forward, it also encrypts. Okay.
I have a question. We send documents to you SafeSend to our candidates early on before they ever have a temple email, or often before they have a temple email. Can I send them an email?
Yes.
Okay, because will they have to ask back for special permission to open it?
No, as long as they open it through the email. So they open it and then they follow the link in the email, they'll be able to get in.
That's awesome, because that is
awesome. Lori?
Yeah.
You mentioned that some PDFs may have some problems going through to you SafeSend, like, because we also have to send certain things like withdrawal forms and things to the registrar's office, and it has to go to you SafeSend. We could actually do it this way if the PDF is accepted.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. So attach it first and then go up and do the encryption. Okay. And as long as it doesn't give you an error and it says this is encrypted, you're good to go.
Okay.
Okay. All right. All right. So yes, you can share Microsoft files with external, it's called external users outside of your organization, but you won't be able to use if you choose anyone in my organization can view, that won't work because they're not in your organization. So you would, if you wanted to make it anyone can view, that's anyone in the whole world, as long as they have this link to this document. And then it doesn't matter what organization they're in. If you choose recipients can view, then it's tied to the email address that you're sending to. So that email address has to authenticate to allow them to view. So it's a little tricky, but it should work out for external people as well. All right, so once you've got some options now in how you can share in Outlook, but let's talk about OneDrive. So OneDrive, I want you to think about OneDrive as one person, you, and where we used to have the P drive, personal, now we have the OneDrive, one, you. Okay, you're the one. All right. It is possible to share files with groups of people in OneDrive. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying it's not designed to do that. It's not the best place to do that, but you can. And so one of the things that I have been pointing out to people is to help you manage that a little bit. Is you can create a couple of folders in your OneDrive. Sorry. So I created these folders, and I have one called shared externally and one called shared with everyone. So if I want a file that I want to allow everyone in the whole world to view, or everyone in the organization to view, I put it in shared with everyone first, and then I share it out. If I want a file that I'm going to share with Greg or with a couple people, with Tamara and Laura, then I put it in shared externally before I share it out. All that does is that helps me remember that I shouldn't delete those files. I shouldn't just get rid of them because I've shared them with other people. So it's just like a key for me, right? That this is shared with other people. But you can also see that when you do it without doing that, you'll see that they're shared. It's labeled as shared, which tells you that files in this folder are also shared, or the folder itself is shared. But I want to avoid sharing too much in OneDrive. And the reason why is that anything that you create in OneDrive that you share out with somebody else is owned by you. So you see my name appears on the modified by all the way down, right? That's because these files are in my OneDrive. They are my files. They're owned by me. If I leave Temple and I no longer have this account, all these files get deleted and all the people I shared with are out of luck. So if I'm a program coordinator and I'm doing all my program stuff in my OneDrive, and then a new person becomes program coordinator, I can't easily pass those files on to that person. And more likely, I could delete them by accident, not meaning to for the whole program. So I want you to avoid doing those kind of sharing in OneDrive. But in the example we were just looking at, anything that you upload and add in your email as an attachment will appear in this attachments inside OneDrive, and you can see this one is shared. And what I was saying earlier is if somebody opened up one of your attachments and started editing it in a way that you don't like, and you're like, oh, I wish I had my original version back, you can look for the 3 dots again next to the file, and then look for version history. And inside version history, and I always pick one that doesn't have any changes. Let's try again. There we go. You can see that I have 3 different versions of this file stored in version history. And if I want to recover it, I can go to the 3 dots and I can actually open that version of the file and say, oh yeah, that version has the data that I'm looking for. That's the version I want. And you can choose to restore it if you need to. So if somebody accidentally edits a file, you can restore it from version history if you need to. Additionally, you can restore files that are deleted out of the Microsoft environment as long as you do so within 30 days. So it sits in recycle bin for 30 days. After that, it will be automatically purged and we won't be able to recover it for you. Okay, so that's where my attachments are going if I didn't otherwise say. I also have a little folder called A temp files where I put things that I don't know how to categorize just yet. But you'll notice that I have a ton of folders. I am a folder organizer. I do not like it when files are all messy like this. See how I just have document, document, document? That really bugs me. So in order to not do that, one of the tips I'm going to tell you is before you start a new document. So the reason why I have those is because I keep getting in the bad habit of just opening Word and starting a new document. But what I should do, and what I recommend that we get in the habit of doing, is going to the folder where you want that file to live first. So to navigate to that file and then choose New from up here and Word document. And when you do that, it will automatically start that document. So notice there's no save because it'll automatically start saving that document in the background. And if I leave and get out of here, that document is already stored in my files in OneDrive. So it's already sitting there. I don't have to worry about backing it up or losing the data. I can come back to that file at any time and start working again. And then when I'm ready, I can click up here and name it something. So, oops. And I could put it in a new location if I wanted to too, but I'm trying to put it in the location first before I start the document. So now I have it named. Now when I come back out, there it is. So it's ready for me. And this is a quick and easy way to file your documents and make sure that they're in the folder that you want them to be before you start working on them. So that's a nice way to organize your files. Again, your files, OneDrive, one person, they're yours. Let me see. I'm just looking at my notes really quick, make sure I covered anything. Anything that you want me to review? Any questions so far? Let's talk about Teams. We don't want you to use Microsoft OneDrive as a place to share with a lot of collaborators. Instead, we're pointing you to Teams. And in fact, over the next coming months, Greg Stepanek and I and the rest of the IT support team will be working to move all of the shared drive data that's currently in our shared drive into a team within Microsoft Teams. Now, we're going to be doing this on your behalf. So if you have a shared drive right now and you have a lot of data in there, we're not advising you to start copying data over. But if you tell us you need a new shared drive, a new shared folder, then we're helping you create a team and setting you up in teams. And if you don't want to wait on us and you have things that you're collaborating on actively, and it would be easier for you if they were all in OneDrive or in Microsoft, then that's fine. You can go ahead and create your own team and move that stuff over. Just know that there may be some negotiation once we create teams that you may want to combine things together. And keep in mind that you cannot move the OneDrive data yet. Not only can you not move the OneDrive data because of the SSN and the health data issue, but also you can't just copy OneDrive data from the OneDrive into another folder on Microsoft. It probably won't work. There's a decryption step you have to do because the OneDrive data is sitting there encrypted. If you don't want to mess with that, and we don't advise you do, wait, and we will work with you to get that data transferred over. But if you wanted to create a new collaboration space for your colleagues right now, you could go into Teams and create a new team. At the bottom of Teams is join or create team. And what I'm asking is that if you create your own team, that you call it CEHD something. CEHD Student Affairs, CEHD Faculty Affairs, CEHD program name, whatever it is. This will help us be able to identify the CEHD related teams versus everybody else's teams in the whole institution, right? So that can be a problem. If everybody called their student affairs, we wouldn't know who's the student affairs in what college or whatever. So if you would call your CEHD something, that'll give us a hint. Notice that I also have EDHD. Us, the IT support team, will be creating the EDHD ones. And so we're trying to keep those separate as well so that we can identify the ones that we create from our existing shared drive and OneDrive data versus the ones that you're creating. So that'll help us keep it separate too. Can you change a name of a team? You can, but it doesn't cascade all the way down to all the places. So you'll still see the old name in certain places. I haven't had the best of luck with that. So I suggest you create a new team and just move the stuff if it's a problem. Okay, so if I create it, when I create a team, every time I create a team, it creates something called the general channel. So a team, you create a team, you name the team, and then you add members of the team. And you have two roles in a team. You have a member or you have an owner. The owner is the person who creates the team, but I'm also going to strongly encourage you. In fact, this should be a rule. If you create a team, there should be more than one owner, because we don't want to get in that scenario that I talked about earlier with OneDrive where you leave and then nobody has access to the team. So you want a partner in crime. So pick somebody else, make sure that there's at least two owners to any team that you create. And in fact, if you want our assistance in creating a team or with that team and managing that team, you're going to make these two people owners of your team. These two accounts you can add to your CEHD team as owners. And what that means is these accounts are SU accounts or super user accounts. And then when you add them in Microsoft, they'll be labeled as admin accounts. Greg Stepanek and I are not logged in as these accounts on a regular basis. If you send a message in Teams to one of these accounts, we probably won't reply to you because we're not checking these accounts. They're solely for IT management work. So we only log in when and if we have to help somebody resolve an issue or remove an owner who left and it's causing a problem or things like that. But if you want our assistance with your team, you can add the admin account, our admin accounts to your team, and we can help you with that. So when you create a team, you're going to designate owners and you're going to designate members, and the team already comes with a channel. And these are all channels inside the team. And by default, it comes with a general channel. So you can have a team that only has a general channel, and that's totally fine. And inside the general channel, you'll get at least 2 tabs by default. You'll get a post tab, which is basically a running chat for this team. And you can see I've posted things to the CEHD tech office in this chat, and I can create a new conversation at any point, and I can hit @ and tech office, and I can @ the whole team and say, hey team, you know, and send it out to the team. I can also @ particular people. So I can say a note to Liz. Everybody can see the chat in the general channel, the whole team, but I'm pinging Liz in particular so she gets a notification that I'm giving her something in this channel. And you'll notice that when I do that @ it only comes up with a small list because these are the people who are members of my team. So it doesn't come up with the whole list from the whole university. It just comes up with people who are already members of the team. And that way I can know who I'm directing my message to. So you get posts, and then you also get files. And inside files, you can put all of the shared files that you normally manage in the shared drive. Now, in the general one, it's open to all the team members. Everybody who's a member of the team can see all the files and do anything that you can in a shared drive with those files in the general channel. But I have what I call subgroups. So we have a smaller admin subgroup. And in our admin files, we have a lot of them. But this has some confidential information, and we don't want the whole team to be able to access these files. So I have a private channel. So I've created a private channel with different membership or a subset of members from the entire team. And you can see the private channels are indicated with little locks. So this tells me that there's a different membership role. So for instance, Liz and I collaborate on the purchasing side of things. So I don't need to annoy everybody with all the purchasing stuff. So I just add her as a member. And then you can see that both she and I edit files. Well, you can't see it so good in there, but maybe in here. But you can see that members of the team get access to edit those files. Now I also have, so some of these are by overall area, I guess. So you might have an undergraduate students channel or a graduate students channel or a finance channel or a, I don't know, pick one, a payroll channel, right? But you could also make a special channel for certain projects that are only going to last a certain amount of time. For instance, we're trying to remove semantic antivirus from everybody's machine. So I created a project channel for that. And I called it Z project because I want it to appear at the bottom of this channels list. And I fully intend to delete this once we're done with this project. I will remove it from so it can't be seen in this team anymore because we'll just be done with it. So it's a temporary, hey, we're working on this, and then I'll get rid of it. So you can organize this into your channels in various ways, depending on what works for you functionally. And then under each channel, you have a post and you have a files, okay? Any questions about channels or creating teams? All of that is great. You know, it's great to have all these options. And I'm going to delete this channel. This was a practice channel that I did the other day. I didn't delete it. But notice that you can delete it as easy as that. It's not intuitive to work inside of Teams files all the time. So one of the things that you might want to do is sync some of these files down to your computer. And what that does is it creates a folder on your computer that you can easily access. So I'm going to open up my computer. Again, this is my home computer. And I just want you to pay attention to these 3 things on the side here. Make it. First of all, I have OneDrive Personal. OneDrive Personal is personal to me. I pay Microsoft for a personal license to OneDrive and to Microsoft for my family. So I share it out with my family. You may or may not have that. It It has nothing to do with Temple. There's no Temple affiliation. If I leave Temple, this stays with me. This is mine. This one, OneDrive Temple University, is exactly that OneDrive that I showed you previously. So it's when you go to office.com and go to OneDrive, that's what this is, OneDrive Temple University. And you can see all of my files and folders are in that folder. And then I have Temple University, which has a little building icon, which one of these days I'm going to figure out why it's a building. It's a very strange icon. Looks nothing like anything else. But these are actually teams. So these are teams. And notice that they're not the team itself, but they're actually the channel within the team. So I have the admin channel in the tech office team. And we were just looking at that. So I have the admin one, the purchasing one, purchasing, and the staff and the staff. Now, I didn't do all of these because this is my home computer. I don't want to clutter up my home computer with every single channel of every single team that I'm a part of, because that would get crazy, right? But the ones that I use frequently and that I work in quite a bit, I do want to sync those. So the way to do that is to go to the team that you want to sync. And I don't have the website team yet, so I'm going to do that one, or the channel inside that team. So I'm going to go to that channel. I'm going to go to files. And I'm going to make sure I'm not in any subfolder within that files. I want to be at the very top level of the channel files. And then I click sync up here. This little pop-up that says getting ready to sync always appears. And for me, it never goes away. Like, it's always getting ready. But if you haven't done already, it will want you to install OneDrive for Business. And there's a link for how to do that. But again, you could also do that from the home page on Office and by going to install Office and install other apps. So you can do that as well to install OneDrive. But once it does its thing, and there's no confirmation that it's done, but you can see it now in your computer, you'll see that new set of files show up right on your computer. Now, this is device specific. So I've synced this one to this computer, but that doesn't mean it's synced on another computer if I sit down, or another computer if I sit down, or another computer. So I have to do it at each computer that I work at if I want these files to be synced all the time. And then know that it's not actually downloading all those files to your computer, because you can have a terabyte worth of data for each team in Microsoft, and you might not have all that space on your computer. So it keeps all that stuff in the cloud. That means that little cloud symbol means these files are not actually stored on my computer. And so what that means, if I wanted to open up one of these files, I have to have internet access in order to be able to do that. Office needs to be able to reach out to the cloud and grab a copy and bring it down to my computer when I open it up. So if I don't have internet access, I won't be able to open these documents. Once I open the document, it does exactly that. It goes to the internet, it grabs a copy and copies it down, and the icon changes. So now it changes to a little green check mark that says, hey, this file right here, this is on my computer. It's sitting on my computer's hard drive right now. And it will stay that little green check mark as long as it's there. But over time, if I don't open this document up again, it will eventually return it to just a cloud version. So it doesn't keep those documents on your computer all the time. And that's to save space. It's smart. It thinks about what you use and what you don't use. And it saves space on your computer. So you do still need internet access while you're doing that. But when you change a file, it'll also change briefly. Let me see if I can modify this one and save it. I don't know if I can get it to save fast enough. Oh, there it is. So it changes to that little arrows, meaning it's doing a sync right now. It's syncing up the file from the version that I have on my computer to the version that's up in the web. And eventually it will go away and be green check again. It'll stay there as syncing until I'm done editing. So it'll stay in sync mode until I actually exit out of the file. And then it'll do a final check a final sync and turn it back into a green check. Okay. So those are what those little icons mean that this stuff is still sitting in the cloud, but you can easily access it. Once you have these folders, you can do file and save as, you can attach things, you can move files around from one place to the other. You can create a new file and drop it into this folder, and it will be available to your team as soon as you do that. Okay. All right. So that was a lot. I'll take a pause. What questions do you guys have? What can I answer?
Hi, Lori.
Hi.
I was actually just looking at what you were doing. Like, I just went on remote because I know that I can find, like, for instance, you talked about that little Temple University with the building.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did see that. Actually, I went in, clicked it, and saw that I have access to only 2 of the Teams files that are, I guess, in Teams. I guess maybe I didn't hear you. How do I get it to give me access to the other files in Teams?
So on each device that you work in, you have to do that sync step for each channel within the team, right? So this is the team, but I can't sync at the team level. I have to go to the specific channel. Like, this channel is not synced right now. It doesn't show up in my little list, right? So I have to go to that channel and to the files in that channel and choose sync there.
Okay.
And I have to do that for each computer that I work on if I want that set to show up on that computer.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? You guys are so quiet because it's Friday afternoon. You want to be done. This is just a hint. If you accidentally set up sharing, you can stop sharing by going to right-clicking and going to settings, and it will come up and it looks like this. And you can say to stop syncing. So I'm going to stop syncing this website one that I just created. So then it'll turn off the syncing part, but it still keeps it in your list until you delete it. So it's still here, all the files, but you see it's all, the little cloud goes away until I actually delete this folder. And then again, I'm not deleting it from the web. I'm just deleting it from my computer because I stopped syncing before I did that. But if I delete it now without stop syncing, I will delete it from the web. So I don't want to do that. Okay.
So if I access Teams, hi, Lori. Hi, Greg.
Hi.
If I access Teams from the home tab on my TU portal, I'm not going to get those fancy files like that, or am I?
You're not going to get it on your local computer if that's what you're looking for, but you can access the files from Teams. Yes, you don't, they don't have to be on your local computer. And so, like, if I went to a computer lab and I wanted to do some work, I would go to office.com, go to Teams, go to files, go into a document, open it up, and I can edit that document in my web browser right here without bringing it down to my computer or anything. And if I don't have enough options for how I want to edit it, I can go to those 3 dots and I can say open in browser. And so then it'll open up in a separate window. So now I can go back to Teams and pick other files and work in other files. I can close this one now and go run around in Teams, and it sits up here. And if I really am still frustrated, I can say open in desktop app, and it will open it actually on this computer in my desktop app in Word. It opens it up in Word on this computer. But as I edit, it's going to save back into that Teams folder.
Okay.
So that's a nice way to work on files that I want to make sure get saved back to Teams without mapping that sync, without doing that sync.
Got it. So if I go to office.com on the laptop, but I'm not on the remote server.
Yep.
You should be able to.
That should all work.
That should all work. Yep.
Okay.
You don't have to be on remote proxy or remote.temple or anything.
No, that's the beauty of Teams and OneDrive, is that you don't have to be remoted in to see your data.
Okay.
You can see it from anywhere you have internet access.
Okay. Thank you. We've actually been using Teams for a while, but I just wanted to be able to know that I'm maximizing the capability of it.
Yeah. And one of the things I didn't mention, but you can see it now, I'm back in OneDrive, right? You can see my shared libraries.
Yes.
Those are my Teams folders, right? So you can get to Teams files from OneDrive and vice versa. But it can get confusing. So I like to go separate them out. But yes, you can get to your Teams from OneDrive and your OneDrive from Teams. And one other thing I want to point out to the group is that is SharePoint. So all of these things that we're creating, all of these folders and teams and files and groups and all that, they actually get built in SharePoint. So all of the teams that I'm just showing you all exist in SharePoint. But I want to strongly discourage you from going directly to SharePoint. SharePoint can be very confusing in terms of permissions and who can access what. And you can go down a rabbit hole of permissions so fast that you'll just drive yourself crazy. So if you create and share either in OneDrive or in Teams, yes, it builds it out in SharePoint, and you may see those files if you click on SharePoint, but I don't want you to create a site in SharePoint or create a post in SharePoint or do any of the tasks in SharePoint. You want to do those either in OneDrive if it's for you and it's your files, or in Teams if it's for your group or your unit. Okay.
Yeah, you'll see a button called Open in SharePoint a lot of places.
Yes.
Please don't ever click that.
It's actually fine to do it, except you'll be in a weird spot that you won't know. I mean, it doesn't really help you. It doesn't do what you think.
Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So we're almost at the end of the hour. I hope this was helpful for you guys, and that we covered some stuff that was new and good information. If you want to ask more questions, you have certain things you wanted to get answered that I didn't cover, you're welcome to hang out. Greg and Liz and I will hang out for a few more minutes. We're happy to answer questions. If you don't have any questions, thank you for coming. You're welcome to take off. I hope you have a really nice weekend.